Hello everyone, and welcome to the first Freaky Friday fiction of 2022. I can't believe I haven't done one of these since I think like October or November of last year. If you are new to the channel, Freaky Friday fiction is an idea that I had based on the advent packages that I got from my dear sweet friend Rachel this year. She and I gave each other bookish advents, and I decided that I wanted mine all to be murder mystery themed. And so because I knew I was going to be getting all of these murder mystery books from her, I wanted to start this series where I read murder mysteries or books that I consider freaky and vlogged them for you guys. The first book I'm doing is not actually a book from Rachel, but it's just a book I've had for a really long time, and it is a murder mystery. It's not a freaky one, it is a cozy one, but I decided I really wanted to do it. But anyway, if you are here and you are new, I'm Lydia, and this is my Freaky Friday fictions where I vlog style my reading and give you my like play-by-play and instant reactions of the stories I'm reading. So let's get into a little bit about this book so I can tell you guys what it's about. It is The Secret Book Scone Society by Ellery Adams, and I am loving it. I am 90 pages in, and I just started this morning, and there's only 285 pages, so I have a feeling it's not going to take me very long. Sorry, it's a little bit loud in my backyard. The wind chime is going off. But anyway, it's about this group of women from Miracle Springs who get together and form a Secret Book Scone Society, which is not a real book club, but they are a group of women who set out to try and discover what happens to a man named Neil Parrish. Miracle Springs is famous for travelers coming in to try and help solve their biggest woes, their regrets. And Neil comes to the town. He goes to the gingerbread house and gets a comfort scone on his way to Miracle Books to meet with Nora, because Nora has a knack for giving you a stack of books that kind of help you set yourself on to a new journey. But before he is able to get to Miracle Books, he dies. And so far we've met Nora, the owner of Miracle Books, Hester, who is the owner of the bakery gingerbread house, Estella, who is the owner of the Magnolia Salon and Spa, and then we've also met June Dixon, who works at the thermal pools. I am really loving all of their characters so far, and each one of them has something kind of dark in their past that they haven't really shared with anyone. And so kind of coming together so far at this point and becoming this group, they're starting to form a bond and a connection, and kind of becoming friends. And as they're going about learning what happened to Neil, more things are being revealed about them. So they told each other that in order to really trust each other, they had to tell each other about their past. And so at this point, I have learned Estella's story, which is very sad, but I'm very curious to keep going and learn Nora's story. The book is primarily told from Nora's perspective, so I'm really curious what her story is. We've already gotten quite a bit of information about her, but yeah, I'm curious to see what happened. She has burn scars all over her, so I'm curious to find out what that was about. And it's not a like super fast-paced book. It has kind of a very mellow, cozy feel to it, which I'm really enjoying. And because it also is kind of about books, because it's told from Nora's perspective, who is the owner of the bookstore, there's lots of book quotes in here. There's a quote at the beginning of each chapter, and I'm really enjoying those. But at the very beginning of the book, there is a quote from Virginia Woolf that I just love, and it says, "Books are everywhere, and always the same sense of adventure fills them. Second-hand books are wild books, homeless books. They have come together in vast flocks of variegated feather, and have a charm which the domesticated volumes of the library lack. Besides, in this random, miscellaneous company, we may rub against some complete stranger who will, with luck, turn into the best friend we have in the world. I just love, for my fellow Murder, She Wrote fans, there is actually a quote in one of the chapters where Nora says, "I don't need to be Jessica Fletcher to figure this out." So I know that Heather and Nina and Abby would particularly like that sentiment. She also refers to Perry Mason numerous times. So I'm really just loving kind of that nostalgic feel that I'm getting from these characters and the story. I can't tell if I'm more interested in finding out what happened to Neil, if they are going to find out what happened to him, or in learning about their stories. So, but it includes all the things I like: books, murder mysteries, scones. So I'm definitely excited to keep reading it. So I will keep you guys posted on my thoughts. So I'm in chapter 8 now, and I had to pause to tell you guys that one of the characters, June Dixon, who I can't quite figure out, I think she's older, and I really like her name because my middle name is June and my best friend's last name is Dixon, so I like that her name is June Dixon. Anyway, she's talking about how a book that changed her life was Water for Elephants, and I absolutely love that book. And so it kind of just made me smile when I saw it. She says, she's like, "A book that ended up changing my life was Water for Elephants. Does anyone know it?" All three of the women at the table indicated that they had all read Sarah Gruen's novel. So I just really liked that. And so now we're kind of getting June's backstory. So now I have Estella's and I'm getting June's. So I still need to know Nora's and Hester's. And things are starting to kind of fall into place with what may have happened to Neil. He was a partner in a development firm, and they are trying to build a housing development called Meadow Springs, I believe, in Miracle Springs. And his partners seem like they could be slightly shady characters who may have had something to do with Neil's death. So we're getting to know them as well. Anyway, I just wanted to pop in and tell you that little bit about Water for Elephants. So it is the next day. Last night I got to page 200, and I am loving where the story is going. So the group of women have come together to help the fourth member of their group. I'm not going to say who in case you want to read, so I don't want the story to get spoiled for you, but one of the women has found herself in a little bit of trouble, and the three other women are coming to her aid. And I just love that they're like these little small town sleuths. I just am loving it. And last night they started to dig up more information, and they're starting to think that there's some sort of investment scheme going on with this new housing development that is going up in their town. And as I mentioned earlier, Neil Parrish, the man who died before getting to meet with Nora, was one of the partners in the firm that's building this housing development. And so they're starting to kind of uncover some more information about that. And that is starting to be really intriguing. So I'm super curious to keep going. I only have 58 pages left, and I'm hoping that I can try to get that finished while I'm sitting here waiting for my son. We're up in Deer Park. He has his final reading tutor session of the school year, because we are almost done with our school year, you guys. I'm so excited. But I'm going to run over to Picket really quick and get myself a coffee, and then I come back and see how much of the book I can get through while he's in class. So let's go get some coffee. So coffee in hand, I got what I always get, which is an iced hazelnut latte with oat milk, and it's so yummy. And I ended up going inside because there was a lot of people in the drive-thru. But then I totally forgot to show you guys how cute the inside of Picket is. You've seen it before if you've been around for a while. But anyway, okay. Let's jump back in and finish these last 58 pages. I only have about a half hour, so I probably won't get all 58 done, but I should get close. Okay, guys. It is now Thursday. As you can see, I'm back in my car. My kids have 2 more weeks of classes at our enrichment program for the Home Link program that we do. So I'm back in the car, and the puppers is back there in his kennel. So hopefully I can get through this before he freaks out. But I did finish The Secret Book Scone Society by Ellery Adams last night. And I think this whole time I've been saying that there's only 258 pages. There were actually 285 pages. So somehow I mixed that up. So I read about, I think, 30 pages in the car yesterday, and then last night finished it up after dinner. It is definitely a 5 out of 5 stars for me. It's funny because there's nothing that's like overly, you know, when a book just resonates so much with you, and for whatever reason you just feel so connected to the characters and the story, and you just enjoy every minute of it. That was this for me. So much, in fact, that I picked up the second one in the series, The Whispered Word, off of my shelf this morning and decided to bring it with me because I'm in the car for about 3 hours while they're in class, and I'm going to try and get a good chunk of this one read. I might actually film this one as well for this video. Now that I'm thinking about it, I might as well, right? And give you my thoughts on both of them. I think there's actually 2 or 3 more books in the series. I only own these 2. I know that my aunt owns the third one, which I think is called The Book of Candlelight. So I might have to snag that one from her. But yeah. So anyway, my thoughts on this. So without giving too much information away, I really love how it wrapped up. I loved the storylines of all of the characters. There were multiple characters that came into the storyline from the town, Miracle Springs, and then also all of the partners that were part of the Pine Ridge Properties, which was the farm that was trying to build the meadows. But the 4 main characters are Estella, Hester, June, and Nora. Nora is the character that we get to see the perspective of the book from, and she's the owner of Miracle Books. And I just resonated with her character so much. And there were so many times in here where favorite books of mine or favorite characters were referenced. Heathcliff is in here, and if you guys have been around for a long time, you know that I love Wuthering Heights, and I will always love Heathcliff and his moody, broody self. So he's in here. She references J.R.R. Tolkien, Water for Elephants, like I mentioned in a clip earlier. I just absolutely loved all of the book tie-ins, but also like the magical realism tie-in. So with Nora's character, we get a lot of magical realism in the sense that she's able to somehow connect with customers who come in, and she creates like reading stacks for them to help them with loss or grief or sickness. And, you know, in reading these books, it helps them. So Nora, I think none of their ages were really given, but in reading kind of the information and the backstory of Nora, our main character. I think she must be late 30s, early 40s, maybe even mid 40s. Hester is the youngest character in the book, and she owns the gingerbread house, which is the bakery in town. And she also incorporates a lot of magical realism into the story with her character, because she has the ability to create what she calls comfort scones. And so you come to the gingerbread house and she creates a scone for you based on a story that you tell her or information that you give her. And when you eat that scone, it brings back memories. And it just, I just loved that tie-in about how cooking could be magical and healing. I really enjoyed Hester's character. And I think she's late 20s. That's kind of the impression I got from her storyline and kind of the timeline of things in her life. June is probably, aside from Nora, June is probably the character I appreciated the most. She's definitely the oldest character. And I think, based on her storyline, I think she's late 50s, maybe early 60s. And there's just something so motherly, so grandmotherly, so, I don't know. She kind of reminded me of my great Aunt Marguerite. She was a take no crap kind of lady. She knit. There's a scene in there where she gives Hester a pair of socks, and she's like, "They're the best pair I've ever made." And I used to own an indie yarn company. I am a knitter, and as much as I love the way socks look, they are not my favorite thing to knit. And it took me a long time to be able to knit a nice pair of socks. But she was just a funny character, and I really enjoyed her. She worked at the thermal pools. And so it's like kind of like a hot springs almost, but like at a resort. But she had done lots of other things in her life before that. And she just kind of felt like the one who, in a way, I mean, Nora primarily brought the group together, but I kind of feel like June held it together in a way. I don't know why. Like, Nora did that as well, but I don't know. I just really connected with June. I really liked her. As I mentioned before, I think part of what I love about her is that her name is June Dixon, and it combines my middle name and my best friend's last name. And so I really just enjoyed that. And then last but not least, we have Estella. And Estella is probably the character I connected with the least. I do still enjoy her character. She, in a way, kind of reminded me of certain aspects of Dolly Parton's character from Steel Magnolias. She's a hairdresser. She's kind of the beautiful one in town. But where Dolly Parton's character in Steel Magnolias was still, I don't know, more wholesome, I guess. Estella is kind of our rough around the edges town floozy in a way, but she uses that perception to her benefit. She is and isn't that in the book, and I do really like Estella's character. And she definitely rounded out the group a lot. And so I think their character dynamics in the story really worked well together and played off of each other. And I loved that it was kind of a dual thing. Like, we were trying to figure out what happened to Neil Parrish. And then, like I said, something happened to one of the other members of the group. And so they're trying to solve Neil's thing. They're trying to help their friend, but they're also in the process healing themselves by becoming a group of friends who, for the first time in a long time, like, actually open up, trust each other, and tell each other their stories. And as their stories unfolded in the book, you really did kind of like peel back a layer of each of their character dynamic. And I really liked getting to know them and what had happened to them to bring them to Miracle Springs. Nora's story was sad. Hers, I felt like I kind of saw where it was going. June's story, I was completely surprised by. Hester's story was very sad, but also made a lot of sense for her character. And then Estella's story was also sad, but again, made a lot of sense for her character. So I definitely enjoyed this. Like I said, there were just so many times I wish I would have like stopped to read snippets to you guys while I was reading. There are a couple that I just loved that I should have stopped, but I love books based in the South, especially books placed in North Carolina. Thank you, Nicholas Sparks. I've never actually been to North Carolina. I have a good friend, Amber, who lives there. And this particular section of the book actually really reminded me of her because she lives in North Carolina and she does handmade pottery. So I wanted to read this spot. She says, I remember for whatever reason, I needed to toss out the possibility and have you argue against it. Nora filled the largest coffee mug that she had. Unlike those she kept at the bookstore, all the mugs she used at home were handmade by a local potter. She loved how the curve of the handle was a perfect fit to her fingers, or how cupping the mug in her two hands sent warmth deep into her palm. It was as if the North Carolina clay and handmade glaze retained more heat than a coffee mug produced in some massive factory. Nora had mugs in 4 different glazes. Today, she'd chosen the cobalt. I don't know why that just like resonated with me, because I too really love handmade mugs, and I have a couple handmade mugs from Amber. But it just like when I was reading that, like every time she had pieces like this, I just felt so much like I was in the story and could feel what she was talking about. And this like Miracle Springs to me kind of had like a mix of the town from Steel Magnolias, which I'm blanking on the name of for whatever reason, and Bluebell, Alabama from the TV show Heart of Dixie. And it's kind of like that small town feel where everybody's in everybody's business, but everybody like cares about each other. And like, I just loved the atmosphere. The mystery wasn't overly, scary. There were some layers to it. I do have to say there was a plot twist with a character that I didn't see coming. I kind of thought the plot twist was going to go with a different character, so I loved that something caught me off guard. And it was a little bit sad, I have to admit. But I just love it. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the first book of the Secret Book and Scone Society. I'm really excited to pick up The Whispered Word. I would really just love if I could maybe have it read by like the end of today or tomorrow. It's also really short. So the first book, like I said, 285 pages, and this one is only 290. So it's not a whole lot longer. I'm going to see here. I'm pretty sure this one still follows the same characters. It doesn't say. In the other book, it had the list of characters, but it doesn't say in this one. But I'm seeing Nora's name and Hester's and Estella's, and June's. So, yes, same group of women. So I'll just go ahead and read the back, since I think I am just going to read this one. And then maybe give you guys my thoughts on this one at the end. Will that be such a long video? I don't know. We'll see where we get in the editing process. Let's just go ahead and read what it says. Nora Pennington and her fiction-loving friends in small-town Miracle Springs, North Carolina, encounter a young woman desperately in need of a new beginning. Nora Pennington, owner of Miracle Books, believes that a well-chosen novel can bring healing and hope. But she and the other members of the Secret Book and Scone Society know that sometimes practical help is needed too. Such is the case with the reed-thin girl heading into the fiction section of Nora's store, wearing a hospital ID and a patchwork of faded bruises. She calls herself Abilene, but won't reveal much else. And when a customer is found dead in an assumed suicide, Nora uncovers a connection that points to Abilene as either a suspect or another target. After a second death hits town, Nora and her intrepid friends must help the new greenhorn sheriff discern fact from fiction and stop a killer intent on bringing another victim's story to a close. So it sounds good. We did actually, so at the end of this one, the girl with the hospital bracelet did show up at Miracle Books. So they do kind of just like, go one to the next. So I'm very excited to keep going, and I'm so glad I finally picked this up. So I will say goodbye for now, just in case I don't decide to read the second one in this same video. But I will definitely film my thoughts on this one and let you guys know whether it's in this video or another one. But I'll just go ahead and say goodbye for now, and thank you so much for watching. If you see me again, it's because I decided to read this one in this video. So